Thank you guys for coming. Thanks everyone for coming. I should have. There we go. Thank you for joining us this morning. Good morning again. My name is Judith Fagona from Sustainable Travel and Tourism Africa. We are excited that you could join us this morning for this discussion that we're having on the launch of the Sustainable Tourism Trends to Watch in 2025, according to Sustainable Travel and Tourism Consulting Africa. We are glad that you have made time to join. And because these webinars are timed to allow us for the discussions that we will need to have, we will not wait for those who registered and have not joined. We will start our conversations. So once again, thank you for coming. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat if you want to network. We are having this launch as part of our monthly webinar series on sustainable development of tourism. And so we'll consider this our second webinar for 2025. And we are going to learn together. As the years progress, as a year progresses, we are always keen to see what is going on with the industry in that particular year and how it could shape the year that is coming ahead. So these trends have been observed from 2024. We were tracking some trends, but we were also seeing what is emerging over that time through interactions, through network, through reading, through learning from other platforms as well on what is going on in the sustainable tourism space. What is for sure, what we cannot discount is that there is an accelerated pace when it comes to all matters sustainable development. And this is not just tourism. We are talking sustainable development in general. There is an accelerated pace by governments. There is acceleration in all economic sectors as we edge closer to 2030 deadline for accountability for the SDGs. And so for us at STTA, we are counting the next 5 years as the years of accountability for sustainable development, and tourism is in there. And because we are in tourism, we are talking about years of accountability for sustainable development of tourism. In the tourism industry, there are efforts, significant efforts. We will see the 10 that we have listed, but we have seen efforts in policy. As we sit here, I think Kenya is revising its tourism policy. For the last 2 years, since 2023, Kenya was revising its criteria on star rating to include sustainability. And 2024, we saw a presentation from Tourism Research Institute where they had taken a deep survey on how climate is affecting tourism, but also how tourism can be greened. So greening of tourism, research is already happening in that space. And when we see it happening in Kenya, because Kenya does not operate in isolation when it comes in policy, nations belong to economic blocs, and some of these actions are actually pushed from the top. Sometimes they're even pushed from global level when we have meetings like the Conference of Parties, where big commitments are made today. So what we see on the ground, and if it's happening in a country, you know that the move and the action is not just for that individual country, but the country is actually working so that it is aligned, whether with a regional policy or an international protocol that requires movement in that direction. So we will see that the sustainable tourism trends from 2025 for the next 5 years, which areas of accountability will actually mirror the shift that is being made because nobody wants to be left behind. No one wants to come to 2025 and not be able to report progress at nation level. Yeah, accountability reports in 2030, and you're not be able to present anything tangible. So we've even seen that at regional level, like in the East Africa community, even at IGAD level, yeah, measurement is becoming important in the tourism industry. And East African community, for example, is putting emphasis on measurement. They want every country to have a system and a tool established for measurement of the impact or the performance of the tourism industry. So indeed, we are seeing the beginning of consolidation of actions. Countries want to start putting together their data. How have we performed in terms of sustainable development of tourism? How will we measure ourselves when it comes to climate? And so we see research, intensive research going on in the climate space. We see the review of policies to include sustainabilities as indicators of performance and benchmarks for performance. So there is that shift towards the SDGs for those who had ignored them. At business level, I've spoken at international level, we see the actions. At regional level and corporation level, at development level, we see the action. But also at individual company levels, we are also seeing a shift, and nobody will want to be left behind because it will be expensive to catch up. It will be expensive. Already, the early adopters in sustainable tourism are reaping their benefits. The ones who started acting with sustainable tourism as early as 2002, right, are already beginning. And when I'm talking about 2002, I'm talking about the first international year for ecotourism by the UN. As early as 2002, there are those corporates or businesses in tourism that took action. And those businesses are already seeing the benefits. They have already consolidated. They are not rushing to consolidate at this particular point. They are already market leaders in their own right. We also that post-COVID, global organizations like World Travel and Tourism Council had to rethink tourism. And for the first time, post-COVID, we saw the big global brands in hospitality, in the hotel and accommodation sector, those who had not paid attention to sustainability, those who were driven by economics, waking up and saying, oh, we can't be left behind. And now you see the Hospitality Sustainable Tourism Alliance for Hospitality, driven by the big brands and hotel chains, big names in hospitality. Why? Because there is that shift, and everybody wants to get to a point where they will be accountable. So if you don't get anything from today's trends and nothing makes sense, just know that the next 5 years towards 2030 are the years of accountability. They're the years that if you have not consolidated your action, if you cannot show a trend, 5 years gives you an opportunity to start a trend and be able to report on a trend by 2030. And that's why we say there is a race to the finish line. And this race will come with investment. For a long time, the tourism industry did not feel the desire or the push to invest in sustainability. And when I say invest in sustainability, I'm not just saying change your power to solar energy. I'm not just talking about capital investment, but I'm also talking about capacity building in the area of knowledge, right? Without the knowledge, our efforts even to put together what we have done and consolidate it is not there. So we will probably see an accelerated rush for the finish line that will include investments in knowledge, and we will see also a big rise in knowledge organizations in sustainable tourism supporting businesses. We will see a lot of incubators come in the marketplace to help businesses, to coach, to mentor, and to handhold them into this space so that in the next 5 years, they can build a portfolio and a brand that can be presented by 2030. I don't know how it will look like, but I believe in 2030, the question that businesses will be asked when you go to negotiate, you'll be asked, show me your accountability report for the last since 2017. And if you don't have since 2017, at least you can say, for the last 5 years, this is what we have done. Show me your accountability report will be a language of negotiation. Show me your accountability report will be a marketplace language where your business partners will ask you, show me your accountability report. What did you do towards the sustainable development goals in your company? As you say, my company has been in existence since 2012. Then I can ask you the question, okay, SDGs since 2017, what did you do? So as we move towards the year of accountability, it's also the challenge for businesses to accelerate their actions. It's also a great opportunity this last 5 years for businesses to shift their attention, to become more inclusive, and to respond to the development goals. I was mentioning the hospitality, Sustainable Hospitality Alliance group that is made of this big hotel chains. I am excited at the pace that they have taken. They have a pace, it's an accelerated pace. It's almost just like they've realized that, oh my God, 2030 is here with us. And we have just begun this call for regeneration. This is where the call for regeneration has come from the Hospitality Alliance Group. And their call for regeneration, they are so passionate about it that every so often when you join their webinars, or when you read their reports, or when you look at their videos on social media, you will realize that unlike 10 or so years ago, or before that, when sustainable tourism was not embraced by the top, it was actually a passion of maybe 1 or 2 persons in an organization. And we found that in most cases, it was founder driven. If you look at lodges and camps in Eastern and Southern Africa.
Stolen livestock.
Please mute yourself. Please mute yourself if you're in this. Can you mute?
The community. So probably we need a whole day.
Okay. Yes. In this age, sometimes we join several meetings at the same time and we forget to mute ourselves in one. So I was saying the pace that they have adopted. Earlier on, I said it was about founders and small tourism businesses that embraced sustainability. As we come into 2025, you are seeing the leadership in sustainable tourism is almost shifting, right? The scale is almost tilting, so that those who started strong, sorry, I was unmuted by mistake. All of us were muted. Sorry about that. I almost went ahead of my slides, so I will go back. So I was saying, sorry for spending a lot of time on the intro. I was saying that the lodges and camps that started this campaign are almost being overtaken by the big corporates in tourism today, because they have started at an accelerated pace. They have started with accountability in mind. They have started with measurements in mind. They have started with leadership in mind. They want to show leadership. And now you see at board directors level, you see at the investors level, the biggest level, they are speaking sustainability boldly. And it's encouraging to see this trend. We're seeing airlines, right, coming to the front and speaking sustainability boldly. Most of their actions are still not very measurable, right? But we see that they're speaking sustainability boldly. And so as we launch this trend, we want to encourage you. If you're in tourism, whether you are in tourism as an operator, whether you are a property owner, or whether you are in any other segments of the tourism industry, you are in events, in the tourism space in events, you are in training in the tourism space, you know that we have the last 5 years of accountability. We are in the last 5 years of accountability. And accountability is followed, is accompanied by measurement. So whatever you do going forward, if you really want to demonstrate your commitment to sustainability, you have got to start measuring your impact. You have got to start knowing exactly what it is that you're doing. What is the philosophy behind your sustainable tourism practice? What is the framework that you have adopted to use for sustainable tourism accountability? And I want to say to everyone who is here today, you cannot be accountable for sustainability if you do not have a framework that supports you to report sustainability. If you lack a framework for sustainability, and by a framework, I do not mean that you applied for an award and won it. If you can apply for an award and win it without having a framework for sustainability. And that is why even the awards will become questioned in a little while. In this age of accountability, there will be questions around awards. And you will see that later on. I will mention that one of the trends that we will begin to see as we go towards 2030 will be heightened advocacy against greenwashing, heightened advocacy for accountability and transparency in sustainable tourism. So the first thing that you will have to do is to adopt a framework, adopt a credible framework for accountability in sustainable tourism, and start from there. With that large introduction, long introduction, allow me to go into some of the things that we are seeing will define the last 5 years of accountability as we edge towards 2030. We will see more of collaborative partnerships. And why are we going to see collaborative partnerships? Stakeholders will begin to realize as we go forward that there are certain things, even though you want to make efforts to realize them by 2030, that you cannot do them by yourself. You may need to be part, and you may need to be part of a group. You may need to be collaborate with your business partners. You may need to work hand in hand with other institutions so that you can achieve the targets for the goals. It is not by coincidence that SDG 17 and the last SDG is on collaborations and partnerships. It is by design to tell all of us that all this SDG from SDG 1 to SDG 16, the best way to accelerate and to achieve them is through collaborative partnerships. So yes, we will see collaborations, those that exist and new ones between governments, private sectors, stakeholders, local communities, and industry. So look at, if you were to start by evaluating your performance today, I already said you adopt a framework, get your baselines. How is your performance? The SDGs is a good framework that you can use. There are other frameworks that are in the marketplace that you can also use to start by getting a baseline. Where are we at? If we look at 2030 and look at the Sustainable Development Goals and just pick out 1, 2, or 3 things, where are we at in terms of SDG number 8? Unfair labor practices. Where are we at on SDG number 13 on climate? Where are we at in education? And I've had people tell me, Judy, what has education got to do with me? And I am in tourism. Yeah, you are in tourism, but if you have adopted sustainability, then you will know that you also have a responsibility to educate your consumers and to educate When we talk about education for all, we know education is a continuous thing. We're not just talking fixed school curriculum. That is not what that goal is all about. It's not about fixed school curriculum. It is part of it, but it is also about continuous learning in other spaces beyond the fixed school curriculum. If you look at the other SDGs on sustainable consumption and production, evaluate yourself. The good thing about the SDG as a framework is that each of the sustainable development goals have targets. And many, many people, we will get to 2030 without many of us ever having looked at the targets that are listed against any SDG. We know the SDGs, but we never look at the targets that are listed against each one of those SDGs. And those are our accountability benchmarks, right? Because then I can look at SDG number 12 and look at the targets that have been lifted, and I can report. And this is what effective, credible reporting is. If you say that we committed to SDG number 12, sustainable consumption and production, and we are actually particularly managed to implement target 1, 2, and 3, which is talking about this and this and how this is how we did it. So collaborative partnerships will be important to help us going forward. Look for collaborations. It's a way to accelerate what you're doing. The collaborations, like I said, can be private-private. You can look for support from a private organization that is working in that space to help you begin your accountability journey. If you have never written an annual sustainability report, please write one this year. Find support and write one this year. Let it be the year that you begin your accountability, the last 5 years, that you begin also. Earlier on, I talked about consolidating what you have done. I've come across many people who say, but I'm always doing the right things and all those. And then I say, show me a structure or something that you have put down to show what you have done. And they're not able to talk about these things because they have not found ways of consolidating their information. Collaborative partnerships, private-private, private-public, private community. You can start your partnership with the community this year to accelerate your support to communities and promote well-being. So like I said, the drivers for collaboration, right, will be efficiency. We can't do it alone. We don't know everything. We have to invest in this, and we have to find partners and collaborate in this. We don't have the resources that we need as an organization, a small business, but if we get together as 10 small businesses, we can collaborate with an organization. Through resource that mobilization, we will be able to achieve what we want to do. Acceleration of impact. Our investment might be small and the impact might be insignificant. But if we collaborate, the impacts joined together will make a big difference in the communities that we work. And so you start asking yourself, as a tour operator, is my impact in the communities where I work significant? How can I make it significant? And there's going to be a lot of innovation in the collaboration space as well, right? So look for something new, design something new and something different, but know that you are actually trying to achieve efficiency, yeah? So that you can do it quickly. You're also doing resource mobilization because it will take you a long time to put certain resources together to do it by yourself, but also to accelerate the impact and also increase the impact. So 2025 to 2030, we will see a lot of collaborative partnerships for the goals. Another trend that we're going to observe is green marketing campaigns. They are popping up everywhere, in every place that you look. And our own country, Magical Kenya, has already a campaign. We have, they have Magical Kenya has announced that its framework for sustainable tourism in 20, I'm not very sure, so I don't want to make a mistake. I don't know what the frame is for the circularity, but they've spoken about circularity. I think we are yet to see a clear outline description of how circularity will be applied in green marketing. But yes, at least they have announced that it is circularity is the framework that they are adopting for their green marketing campaign. And then we have the One Tourist, One Tree campaign, which was also unveiled by Magical Kenya last year. This is a green marketing campaign. For the two of them, both circularity and One Tourist, One Tree campaign, we are yet to see how this is designed to work and how it will trickle down. Because as a destination marketing organization, whatever is done by a destination marketing organization should be able to be interpreted in the daily work of those who are promoting tourism in that country. The owners of the products and the services must understand. If I'm a tour operator, I want to understand, how does the One Tourist, One Tree campaign work? How do I feed into this campaign by Magical Kenya? I want to understand, when the Magical Kenya talks about circularity, how do I fit into this? How do I fit this circularity into my marketing campaigns? Because in the years of accountability, 2025 to 2030, we are not blabbering. We are not green crowding, right? We are not green crowding. We are not saying things because others are saying them. This is what green crowding is all about. Or is that the new way of doing things? Even as we will say something without deeply thinking about it, without having a system and a structure for it so that it actually realizes some impact. We have come from the years of greenwashing. We are getting into the final years of accountability, but we are seeing green campaigns. In 2024, the 8 IGAD member states unveiled the Green Tourism Marketing Campaign. So we're seeing the regional blocks are working with marketing campaigns. COMESA itself has a sustainable tourism development framework, right, to promote green marketing campaigns. We have seen RETOSA, the Regional Tourism Organization of Southern Africa, also has a green tourism campaign. So there is an awareness, like I said, that the clock is ticking and we have got to do something. And so at company level, at business level, ask yourself, what is my green marketing campaign? And your green marketing campaign cannot be a standalone. It must be part of your overall sustainability policy and your value statements and what is driving your organization towards sustainability and the framework that you're using for accountability. Then you can say, within all this bigger thing that is called sustainability in our company, our marketing campaign looks like this, right? So my green marketing campaign includes no single-use plastic water bottles, right? Because I am pushing, for minimization of waste from the tourism company, from the tourism industry. My green tourism campaign includes these 10 things or these 5 things or this, whatever you document, you become accountable for. So we will see more and more green tourism campaigns. We saw in the years during COVID, countries were actually asking visitors to sign a green pledge or a tourism pledge or an environment pledge, whatever it was, the green stamp. It was called many different things as signs of accountability. Some countries were using that to say that, look, if you come to us, you've got to make this pledge before you enter our country. And that is a green tourism campaign at destination level. And it is made clear how it works. It should not hinder travel, and it should not make it difficult for the businesses operating to understand. It should be very simple and very straightforward. So when we tell us about your green tourism campaign, we should see clearly what it is that you're trying to achieve. And again, that must be linked to your framework. You may wonder and start asking, but all this is about the SDGs. So why a particular trend on the spotlight on SDGs? Yes, there is going to be a spotlight on the SDGs because it is the frame that has one of the highest standards of accountability. Remember at the beginning, I said that each of these SDGs has got targets. Each and every one of them has got targets that are listed. And this is what will be used to measure the performance of countries and regions when we come to 2030 when they are going to present their accountability reports. So yes, there will be a spotlight on the SDGs because people are looking for accountability frameworks that are credible. We have come from eras where we've been talking about, if you look at the tourism industry globally, as of today, you probably have more than 1,000, 2,000 certification programs, green labels. There are many. As of 2002, UNEP had reported that time only, there were about 110 green certification schemes by 2002. By the time we had the Global Sustainable Tourism Council, these numbers had increased. In 2025, I have not even found an exact number. That's why I'm not reporting. I've been checking, but I haven't found the exact numbers, what numbers we have of accountability. But the spotlight will come back to the SDGs because most of these frameworks have failed in one way or another. Most of the frameworks have failed in one way or another. I didn't put my hand up. Who put my hand up? Okay, yeah. So most of these frameworks have failed in one way or another. So focus is going to be back to the SDGs, which are credible, which have got targets that are measurable, that you can report against. And so we will see, I've just used some examples, yeah? We will see, I mentioned the single-use plastic campaign, SDG 14, and the sustainable consumption and production. It is one that has received a lot of attention over the years. So that was a spotlight on a particular target of SDG number 12. It's supposed to be 12, not 14, right? We've got in the tourism industry, we've got an accelerated awareness around SDG number 3, good health and well-being. So wellness has been adopted by most responsible companies in response to SDG number 3. So you see wellness in the area of food, you see wellness in the areas of amenities, you see that are available in properties, you see wellness in the area of activities that are being offered to guests, from sitting activities to more engaging and moving activities. You see a lot of cycling activities, watching wildlife on horseback, other than just sitting on a safari vehicle, going on walks in the morning, other than going for a morning drive and an afternoon drive, and another morning drive and another afternoon drive. There is no way you're promoting wellness and good health in the safari industry if that is what you are continuously doing. We have seen a spotlight on circularity. A lot of companies want to know what the end product, where their end product goes to, right? Not just what they input, but where their end product goes to. And we see that the tourism industry wants to be accountable. We have commitments for use of electric vehicles because they want to know what happens at the end of the safari. If I have picked my guests and taken them on wherever they want to go, what is the impact that I have created, and how can I manage what comes at the end of the process, right? You've got a lot of people who are managing food waste and turning it into biomass. This is focused on circularity again, that whatever comes at the end of the pipe, we are able to use it back again. You see a lot of recycling of water in different places, in different facilities. Again, this is around circularity, okay? Then we see issues around equity, which is SDG number 5. Sorry about that. SDG number 5, you see things around equity. There is a focus in fair trade. There is focus in community integration. There is a lot of focus where benefits are being shared with community. You see a higher level of consciousness to promote equity. So there's a spotlight on the SDGs because, as I've said in the beginning, it is a more accountable framework and more global than all those others that are national and regional and whatever. SDG is one of the more global frameworks, and that's why it is going to become a very popular framework in the next 5 years, the years of accountability. I mentioned at the beginning that advocacy for transparency in certification is going to increase. There's going to be more scrutiny around certification schemes. We might even see governments take over certification. I think there's within Kenya, the Tourism Regulatory Authority might just be taking over certain elements of sustainability certification, yeah, as they revamp their certification program or their star rating program. There will be more scrutiny. We can't get away anymore without being accountable. One of the best examples I have come across in this accountability and to prove that there is going to be a call for accountability is the consumer awareness against greenwashing, the EU legislation that is addressing greenwashing, that's going to hold all parties accountable. All parties accountable. So it will be my responsibility before I do business with you to find out whether your green claims are true or you're greenwashing. If I do business with you and your green claims are false or you're greenwashing, then we will both be accountable. And if there is a cost to that by fine or other means, we will all be in it. And that's why I'm saying there will be advocacy for transparency in certification. When we see destinations demonstrate against tourism, we saw a lot of this pre-COVID. It's coming back because we have hit our pre-COVID tourism numbers. In 2023, we were most countries globally, we were at about 80% pre-COVID numbers at country levels and at destination levels. I know that there are destinations that surpassed 2019 numbers. A destination like Masai Mara definitely surpassed the 2019 tourism numbers, arrivals, and revenues. So we are already there. And we saw before COVID that there was the concept of over-tourism. And citizens were holding governments accountable. They were actually going out and calling out to government to look at the number of visitors visiting their homes. And they were demonstrating against tourism. This is actually a form of advocacy for transparency in tourism. We want to know how tourism is done. We do not want this tourism that does not have limits. We want tourism with limits. So we will see the advocacy change now because almost everyone has a label today. Almost everyone who wants to have a sustainability label can get it. They can get it because they are being sold. You can pay and get away with it and buy it and get it. You can get it without much scrutiny. You can get it with a very narrow lens perspective and get away with it. And the advocacy for transparency is not just going to be led through policy for transparency in certification. It's going to be led also through consumers. Consumers are going to get so confused as they are in the marketplace today with the number of labels that we have, that they're going to say, to hell with your labels. We are going to do our own scrutiny of who you are. We are going to check your accountability. We are going to demand that you share with us certain information directly. We will ask questions and get responses from them and not trust what you have posted in your sustainability report. Because if your sustainability report is not detailed to the extent that it gives me the confidence, then it's just another PR document that anybody can use and anybody can write. So we will see increased advocacy for transparency in certification. And this is a wake-up call for everyone who is doing certification, for everyone who is applying for certification. Please, before you go for certification, right, look at how credible that certification program is. Can it stand the test of time? Can you compare yourself? If you look at what you do and what other people are doing, read as many reports as possible, attend as many workshops as look at what other people are doing and look at what you are doing and ask yourself, do I deserve to have what I have? Or I have been a victim or a beneficiary of a system that is giving out certification schemes and is not really concerned about reporting. And if you have ever received a certification label, yeah, if you're here or you know of a company that has received a certification of whatever kind and have never produced one sustainability report, please go tell them they are greenwashing. Please go tell them, because certification must come with accountability. You can't give me a label and tell me that I am the best this year, I am the best next year, I'm the best, and you've never demanded accountability from me, and you've never demanded of me to publicly declare to those who are coming to consume my product what that label means. How did I perform? A complete detailed sustainability report. So if you receive labels that do not demand of you to write progress reports every year, demonstrating that you have maintained or superseded what you were before, then you are being aided to greenwash. Number 5, intra-regional travel is going to be increased in the next years of accountability, and Africa will lead the regions, because Africa suffered the most when the world shut down from COVID, and we began to talk to ourselves about allowing intra-regional travel in Africa, removing barriers to travel through visas. It is coming slowly, but countries are beginning to lift visa restrictions for travel. And even where there are visas that are required for travel, I think the conditions are being more and more relaxed for traveling across Africa. And this is good for sustainability or sustainable tourism in the region. There's always this big question that after 2030, and with all the concerns about climate change, and with all the targets that were set by Paris climate agreement, that's talking about not surpassing a certain amount, 1.5 degrees in terms of heating. If we get to 2030 and we are edging close to these limits that were set in the Paris Agreement, maybe nations will begin to tell their citizens, don't travel too far. I used the word maybe. I didn't say they will, but maybe. What happens if those kind of conversations begin to take place? Regions must be able to allow their residents to travel within their own regions to build a strong, so that tourism does not become a victim. We already know, it was acknowledged last year at COP29. It was acknowledged again that tourism is vulnerable to climate change. It's actually, if you read the entire statement that came out of COP29, and I call it an amended or an upgrade of the Glasgow Declaration, the acknowledgement is very loud and clear that tourism is vulnerable to climate change. And when we are talking about vulnerability, let's not just think about it will rain too much, it will become too hot, the glaciers are going to melt, we will not have enough food, we will not, when people are hungry, they will not travel. You know, when people cannot have access to resources, conflicts begin and borders begin to be closed, right? And so you must begin to cultivate tourism in an environment where it can thrive within. At country levels, we must begin to cultivate tourism to enable domestic tourism to thrive. At regional level, so that we don't have to travel too far. Should that time come, when this vulnerability of tourism requires that countries minimize long distance travel, which will be defined at that particular time. So we are saying that we should promote that intra-regional travel is a trend, because it is actually, yeah, a risk mitigation initiative. It is an initiative to build a sustainable tourism industry at regional level. Number 6, we will see the acceleration going forward of impact investors coming into the tourism space. You know, tourism is almost one of the last sectors to receive, sustainable tourism in particular, to receive the attention of impact investors. But they are now stepping up to address persistent challenges in tourism, whether they're environmental or social or economic, right? And their solutions are very diversified. Some of them are technological, right? Can you still hear me? Can I get a thumbs up somewhere if you can still hear me? In the reactions, in the comments. Can you still hear me? Are we here?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for that confirmation. So we've got impact investors coming into the sustainable tourism space. In the East African region, you find examples within Kenya and Uganda. I think the first and the most known impact investor in sustainable tourism in Kenya is Purple Elephant Ventures. This year, they have just announced US dollar 4.5 million. They have raised this amount of money for impact investment to transform sustainable tourism in Africa. I think that's a big one. It may not look like a lot of money, but $4.5 million, looking at the areas where they operate, maybe they're looking at other places in Africa, but they started by setting their businesses up in Kenya, and maybe they're growing into the region. But that tells you something, that in a little space of time when they have been here, when they started off in Kenya, they are able to convince investors that this is a viable space and can attract this amount of money from investors. Maybe there are others that we are not aware of, or we haven't come across, but just this trend is an indication that there's actually an interest. And it's being driven mainly by the opportunity to use, like I said, technology. It's a big driver in this place. But also the large number, the tourism industry is actually an industry of small business. And impact investors like to take small businesses with innovative ideas and build them up into big companies. And I'm thinking the fact that there is so many MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises operating in the tourism industry, which can be strengthened, to build a strong economic base for tourism in Africa, for example, then this becomes an area of interest. So we will see more and more of this as the race towards 2030, as we want to accelerate investments, as we want to build more equal societies, as we remove barriers within the tourism industry, because this is one of the things that this impact investment has been doing, working with small, medium enterprises to integrate them into the tourism value chain. I have come across another one called Africa Rise. Not very much about it, but already they have produced their first sustainable tourism economy report in Uganda. So we have seen other small tech companies that are coming in the areas of tourism payments in the tourism area. I think there are those that are here. I have come across in Uganda and Tanzania. We've got tech companies that are actually working in the payment space in the tourism industry. Again, they themselves are looking for more impact investors in that area so that we can have almost homegrown solutions for making payments, so that all of us who cannot use credit cards and other systems, we can make travel and tourism more accessible by having more easy and accessible payment systems. So impact investors for acceleration of sustainable tourism is one trend that we are going to see from 2025. I have already touched on innovative technologies. Everybody's talking AI and what does it mean for tourism. I think last year we had a seminar with our young change makers to look at how AI is going to work for sustainable tourism and against sustainable tourism. But we agreed that it is here to stay, and therefore sustainable tourism could look into it and see what can we tap into this that can work for the tourism industry without removing authenticity of experiences, without removing credibility of information. Because, you know, in tourism, we consume by sight, information and knowledge and pictures before we actually visit. And we don't want AI to give us distorted information about places. We want it to help in giving accuracy and remove the exaggeration and misinformation that has been in sometimes how destinations are presented versus the reality that we go and find on the ground. Safari operators, if you're here, excuse me, but I will use this not negatively, but just for us to learn. For example, when we sell the migration, yeah, we sell them the Serengeti Mara migration. The pictures that we use for the migration is usually one safari vehicle and the migration, right? And the wildebeest crossing the river. But in reality, when you go to Mara at that particular time of the year, the reality is very, very different. Is there a way that AI can tell me that today I want to go and experience a crossing? And I can actually tell, like, guy, don't go today because today it's an extremely congested day. It looks like this because of what is available and what has been booked. So we were just saying, is there a way that AI can help with management, yeah, of carrying capacity? It's one of the things that has eluded tourism destinations for years, managing carrying capacity. Is this thing something that AI can work with the tourism industry? That the industry can use AI to manage carrying capacity at any given time? That today it can tell the gates at Masai Mara National Reserve that you have admitted the maximum numbers. Now the system cannot admit anymore. So that admission systems use artificial intelligence. We have cut it out. Nobody else can go in. The next ticket must be sold for tomorrow. But we're saying technology is going to play an important role, again, to accelerate us to get where we need to be in terms of sustainable development of tourism. So they will address payment systems, holidays, selling experiences. They will promote accountability. I've already talked about carrying capacity and many more interesting things. Now, in 2024, I had an opportunity to speak with a representative of a company that I've given in here, Join PEV. They are working with guides so that guides can sell their services directly. Safari guides can sell their services directly to consumers. What are they saying? That they are looking at a situation where I can book the holiday with a travel company or directly, and then I can buy the services of a guide, and the guide will join me and come with me on the safari. And they're creating a platform where guides will put their portfolios, their experiences, where they can go, what they can do, how they offer exclusive experiences to get what level of qualifications they have, and all those kind of things. And I guess traveling to Kenya, to Amboseli, can just say, I'm going to pick that guide from Amboseli for my safari. So they're beginning to break what was the package holidays. And I think yesterday in one of my social media posts, I said that we are going to see a trend where we are seeing specialized holidays. Again, is as opposed to the packaged holiday experience. So even for business owners, you must start thinking, how will technology disrupt what I have been used to doing? What will you do if your guest says, from that package that included a guide, now I don't want a guide? Remove the guide from that package. How does that package look like if I'm going to take my own guide? And because they want to be able to pick here and there and put together a holiday for themselves. So we're going to see a lot of innovation. I think innovation is already happening to a large extent in the hospitality sector through check-in systems, facial check-in systems. These ones that gained currency during COVID to remove points of contact. You know, room service has been revolutionized in many places so far. So technology, we cannot ignore it. it's going to be one of the things that will drive us towards 2030 and even accelerate the accountability as we go to 2030. I started by talking about policy, and here we are with policy reinforcement, right? We're going to see a lot of policy reinforcement. Even here at home in Kenya, we're already revising a process to revise our tourism strategy. A process has already started. Stakeholder consultations have already started. We will see a lot of policy reinforcement towards sustainable development of tourism, towards accountability for the sustainable development goals in 2030, right? We have seen a lot of policies that have paid lip service to sustainability. But like I said, we are in the years of accountability. And I hope that these policy reinforcements will actually promote accountability in the sustainable development of tourism and ensure that the operators align with development practices. And align is the word. They have to align. They don't have to aspire, right? They don't have to aspire. They need to actually align with sustainable development practices. And our systems for licensing, our systems for approval, our systems should actually promote this type of accountability. And for these last 5 years, I think our appeal is also to the destination Africa to start considering incentives in this policy reinforcement, to start considering incentives that will allow investment in sustainable tourism. For example, the energy space, the clean energy space should come with incentives. The electric vehicle that a lot of operators are interested in acquiring, but are expensive, should come with some incentives. It should not be policy investment for the sick, but it should be policy investment also that looks at the carrot. What is it that policymakers, what is it that state agencies are giving to the operators in tourism to encourage them as we move towards the year of accountability, that they can accelerate their space, yeah? In terms of policies, again, like we said earlier on, we will see a lead by regional blocks. We will see it's going to be driven by changing consumer needs, right? As consumers change their consumption patterns. We saw how short-term rentals caught Africa and the rest of the world by surprise. Africa is yet to make, I don't know which African country has a good policy on short-term rentals. I know most of us are used to referring to them as Airbnb. Airbnb is a product, one of the products, but they are actually called short-term rentals. So short-term rentals caught us by surprise, but it was a tourist consumer trend. Consumers started preferring to stay in these short-term rentals other than go to the hotel. So we will see policy reinforcement, again, influenced by consumer trends, right? We don't know what is going to happen post the short-term rental, right? What else is happening in this space? We've got what we now call experiences. How is the experiences like the, random experiences? There are people who are just offering you street food. They're offering you an African hair experience for a few days while you are visiting Africa. They are offering, so there are people, travelers, who are now booking a short-term rental and then sampling all these experiences, right? What is the legislation around this? Is this tourism? Should the tourism industry legislate? That person who is making the hair is already paying their single business permit license to the county government. That person who is, but they are handling tourists. They have not received any tourism training, and they have not received, how do we reinforce policy to make sure that travelers get the deal that they paid for? How do we ensure that every service is provided? So there's going to be a lot of consumer trends that are going to force countries or destinations or regions to review and reinforce their policies. We also are going to see a lot of promotion of social and environmental accountability in policies. And the word is that it's going to be reinforced where it's already exists today. We're actually going to come out to the world and say we are accountable for this and we know what we are doing in this particular space. Green skills, we cannot even begin to overemphasize, and this is a call to learning institutions. It's becoming, I think the word we should underline is that it's becoming a cross-cutting competence for all professions. And so the tourism industry cannot ignore it. We must begin to introduce it in our training curriculum. If we are training, we're training tourism managers, if we're training hospitality managers, they must come out of the training institution with some green skills. They must come out of the training college understanding what is carbon mitigation, what is carbon adaptation, what is this Paris Agreement, what is this conference of. They must come out of, and this is like I've said here, it's not just a call for tourism, it's a call for all professions. If I'm at the university and I'm studying to be a teacher, even if I'm teaching literature and I'm teaching whatever it is, languages, I am operating in a global context. There are these things that we must understand so that we pass on the knowledge. It's an awareness and knowledge that everybody, a skill that everybody of us must have. And if you are already past school going age and you are already a practitioner, please find an opportunity to learn. What is this knowledge around green skills that I need to have? And have it because your business needs it. You need to understand the market language. You remember I said at the beginning that after 2030, when you sit down to negotiate business, the question that might come to you is that show us, confirm to us your accountability, demonstrate to us your accountability. How accountable have you been for the SDGs? And if you're a CEO or if you're whatever who does not even understand what climate change is, and you still brag about your competencies, this is a wake-up call. Green skills for the future, for present and for the future, not just for the future, for present and for the future, for relevance in the marketplace, for good practice in the marketplace, so that you are able to take action. Some directors and CEOs are paralyzing the organizations because they have staff who have green skills, who have green awareness, but they have no knowledge of what is going on. And anytime their staff speaks about it, they feel like it is a threat to their position. It's not a threat. It's what is required in the marketplace today. We should have the language, we should have the know-how, yeah, on everything green today. And we should be able to hold a 5-minute conversation around things that are green. If you are a leader in your organization, your company, you're a head of department in tourism, in hospitality, wherever, you should be able to hold a 5-minute conversation around global issues that are going on in the space of green skills. And lastly, we finish our trends with climate action, which we cannot ignore. It's defining every space. If you looked at the first, the conversations, this first slide that I had, I mentioned that environment, climate, pollution, when it comes to natural things that are going to define the accelerated space and the race towards the SDGs, climate is going to lead. Climate is a leader, and that is why we have the Conference of Parties meetings, big global meetings that are addressing this one global threat to all of us. It must be a key focus for tourism operators. Start small in this industry, in this space, in this trend. Write your climate action plan. Start by doing something. Don't be paralyzed by lack of information. We said that trend number 1, right? You remember? We said it was collaborative partnerships. Please, if you don't have the capacity to do it by yourself, look for partners, seek for resources that can help you to do that. Invest in that space, yeah? Buy that service so that you are able to write your own accountable documents in terms of climate. We will not be able to do business in a few years without showing our accountability in the space of climate. And I think this is going to happen so fast that some businesses will be shocked at how climate will be the biggest risk to the businesses that they're running. So we need to prioritize. The trend is to prioritize climate action. We've seen companies talk about offsetting. I don't want to go into the advantages and disadvantages of offsetting, of adaptation, of all those carbon credits. Each one of them has advantages and disadvantages depending on where you are and what you want to do. That is why you must get yourself the right information around climate action so that you take climate action. Climate action is doable. It is doable. For the tourism industry, I think these are the two documents that are now very significant for you. There's the Glasgow Declaration that was made at COP26. Please take time and go and read it. And if you need help for interpretation and how to work with it, you can seek help. We also give that kind of help. Then COP29 last year, yeah, the Declaration on Enhanced Climate Action in Tourism. Remember when I was saying that this declaration starts by acknowledging again, and when you read that acknowledgement, it's almost like they're saying, we are late, we need to do something. We acknowledge the vulnerability of tourism to climate, right? And then they say, we recognize the need to include tourism in national climate policies. Our national climate policy for this country and other countries and all that, they tend not to include tourism. Tourism is pleading through this declaration and saying, tourism needs to be recognized in climate policy because we are vulnerable, right? And then they make a commitment, right? That it is time that we must consider effective mitigation. I have just listed that a bit from the beginning, the preamble of the declaration, but you can read the entire declaration on enhanced climate action in tourism, and it will be an eye-opener for you to know why climate action is going to be a trend for our action between now and 2030. It is one of the things that we cannot leave behind. When we talk about sustainability, we always say, leave no one behind. I think I added in my notes somewhere and said, do not leave climate behind. It's one of the things we cannot afford to leave behind. We cannot leave policies behind. We cannot leave education behind. We cannot leave transparency behind. We are being called to accountability. From now until 2030, every trend in whichever industry, I believe, not just in tourism, will be reinforcing accountability. Accountability in how you consume, accountability in how you produce, accountability in how you report, accountability in how you measure, accountability in how you market, accountability in how you tell narratives and stories of place, accountability in how you procure, accountability in how you relate with the communities, accountabilities in how you your labor policies, accountability. These are the areas of accountability. I thank you very much for listening to me. I will now provide an opportunity where we can take on a few questions if I still have time. My timekeeper tells me that I still have like 10 minutes to take on questions and comments. I said at the beginning that these are not the only trends, that there are other observations that are there, but these are the ones that we choose to focus and highlight in 2025. Thank you so much for being here. Comments and questions are now welcome. I appreciate your engagement. Thank you very much. If you want to say something, you can unmute yourself, or you can share something in the chat as well. Thank you everyone for being here. This session was recorded, has been recorded, and it's going to be available later today. The link is going to be available. It will be sent for everyone, to everyone who registered, and we have your email address. If you have not registered, then you can find it on the YouTube channel of STTA. Thank you, Sislin. Thank you, Marcy. Thank you, Harriet. Thank you, Waidera. Thank you, Esther. Thank you, Noel. Do I have any questions? Do I have any questions? Any comments? Any observations?
Thank you, Judy, for your great insight. It's very interactive. It's very inspiring. I was just wondering, for how often do you plan these sessions?
Monthly.
Or monthly? Thank you very much.
Every month we have a topic that we're talking about. Yes.
Okay, we'll take note of what you have shared.
Yes.
We'll try to do our best and do our planning well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you so much for coming. Let me read. I have done ecotourism and hospitality management, but want to major in which short course will you recommend? Esther, can you reach us directly on that one so that we don't take everybody else's time? But thank you for being here. Reach out to us directly. Tess will put an email address on the chat and you can reach out. What is your reason? What is your on the recent withdrawal of USA from Paris Agreement and its global? Liz, thank you. This is one of the global politics around climate, and yeah, leaders, different leaders, global leaders have different perspectives. There are those who insist. They are called the climate deniers. They say that there is nothing like climate change. They are there. There is nothing we can do about them. But it will definitely have an impact on how some of the businesses relate with countries where the agreement is being used to reinforce policy. You will anticipate that there could be disruption in trade. For example, if American companies are using other countries to produce certain parts of products that they put together, we know how this happens. You get labor from another country, produce different parts, bring them together, we assemble. We could see some disruption or disagreements emerging. We see probably a lot of people going on to environmental arbitration, or when these kind of things happen. Yes, so there's going to be repercussions. The extent of it will depend on the level of trade with the other countries. If, for example, the level of trade with tourism, what is the size of the US market? If we come out with policies that are strong on climate around tourism, they may start to think that, okay, this is not in line with what our leaders are saying because we have withdrawn. But we also know that businesses can sometimes work without being affected by this kind of policies, because this withdrawal is very political. I can leave it there for now, Liz, but we can have that side chat with you. Thanks. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Nyokabi.
Can I ask a question?
Thanks, everyone. Yes, go ahead and ask a question.
Thank you so much. It has been a very good session. I loved your presentation. My name is Noel. I'm a tour guide in Kisumu in Western Kenya. So with regards to your the trends that you've just stated for 2025, on trend 4, which is the advocacy for transparency and the certification.
Yeah.
You've stated that there'll be a very much scrutiny on reports. Maybe, or what is your advice on startups who are looking into getting into sustainable tourism, and they don't want to greenwash, and they just want to be they want to create impact on their communities and also in their environment? What is your advice for these startups? Thank you so much.
Okay, one of the things that you have to do is to find a credible framework, right? Ask the right questions. Some of the questions that I've asked here, ask the right questions. Yeah. And I said a framework that does not allow you to compel you to report on your progress, produce a report and make it public, is a framework that is helping you to greenwash. I will answer you briefly like that for now. Look for a credible framework that compels you to report, that has got clear targets on every of their indicators. They have very clear measurable targets, and you can use that to report your performance. And you will be proud enough to make that report public. Whether you are succeeding or not is not the question, whether you have made impact or not, but you are proud enough to say that I tried this but did not succeed, and this is what we ended up with. That is what accountability is. Accountability is not just reporting success, because that's what the tourism and everybody has been fooled into doing over the years and has contributed to greenwashing, because we felt that accountability requires us only to report success. Accountability is also about reporting our challenge. And today you don't see one company that has received whatever level of those green labels that I'm talking about. Nobody ever reports that we faced challenges in this area. Report your challenges so that others can learn from it, and you might find somebody who has overcome it. Accountability requires us to have holistic, truthful, transparent reports. To find a framework that will enable you to do that. Thank you, Cesar, for being here. Right, thank you. I hope I answered you, Noel.
Yes, thank you so much. I noted all your input. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't see any other hands up or any. Somebody said, can we consider green certification of hotels and tourism businesses as a merit to be considered during classification of hotels and star rating? Yes, this is something that we should do and we should be looking forward to. We should have done it. We can begin doing it in these last 5 years of accountability. Thank you, Esther, for that. We should. Somebody else said, shouldn't we be about the policy? How can tour operators actively participate? You remember when I've talked about advocacy? Advocacy can come from operators asking the policymakers and telling them, we want to be part of the changes that you're making. We don't want this artificial participation where other people who have been handpicked are participating on our behalf. This is part of the advocacy that we are talking about. Tour operators should be part as much as possible in the reinforcement of the policies. And even when it comes to validation of the same, there should be a process that is quite inclusive for everyone to lend their voice. So yes, Melanie, you can raise your voice and say, I want to be part of it, include us and involve us in the reinforcement that is already going on. I hope I have not left any question unanswered. We are right on top of the hour for today. I want to thank you very much. If you want to engage with us, if you want to ask us more, if you want to have advisory services from us, coaching and mentorship around the areas and the trends that we have spoken about today, you can reach us via email. Tess will type it out, knowledge@sttakenya.org, or for specific things like climate, you can write to climate@sttakenya.org. Thank you. Thank you very much. You will receive this recording later on. Remember, did I just see a message? I was about to close and then I just, sorry? Okay.